Are we working? I think we're working. Welcome, everyone, back to the podcast of champions. I'm this guy, David Woods, from Bruin Report Online, the UCLA site on the 24/7 Sports Network.
And I'm Ryan Abraham from USCFootball.com, the USC site on the 24/7 Sports Network. You can see I'm repping this. And we, together, him and me, podcast of champions, talking all things Pac-12 football. We have a little bonus Pac-12 football. We got a Pac-12 team in the national championship game.
Once and future Pac-12 football, the idealized form of Pac-12 football, the where it always should have ended Pac-12 football.
Yeah.
As we all knew should have happened for each of the last, 25 years, the Pac-12 is represented in the national championship game.
Woo, woo. Kalen DeBoer, the Washington Huskies, a future Big Ten matchup, but still, it's a Pac-12 team in the national
It's just
championship.
amazing with all the structural disadvantages for the Pac-12 that they could do this. I mean, it's so astounding that a team was able to make it this far. It's almost like there wasn't a structural issue in play, and in fact, the major issue was just that there weren't teams good enough. But now there is a team that's good enough. But certainly that couldn't be it.
Kliavkoff made some kind of comment about what they were building to. It kind of reminded me of when Pete Carroll won the Orange Bowl in his second year, and Paul Hackett, who was fired after 3 years, said, "I had a 5-year plan." Like it was, if he would have been in the Orange Bowl too. It's like, no, that's not. Kliavkoff, this had nothing to do with you. Pete Carroll going to all those games had nothing to do with what Paul Hackett was building. It's just incompetence there.
No, I mean, what the Pac-12 ran into was its worst, 5-year period in history, and it just happened to coincide with the sport itself kind of breaking at the seams. And thus, we don't have a league anymore, and it's very sad. But what a culmination event for Washington to make the Natty in this year. And I mean, look, earmuffs, Washington fans, and for it not to be against an SEC buzzsaw. Michigan is a very, very good team and a very, very dominating team, but they are not, just those freakazoid SEC athletes where they're like 360 pounds and running a 4.5. It's a different deal, and one in which I expect Washington can be competitive, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that all. Pop-Tarts. This was that was our theme. Mm-hmm. I bought a box of Pop-Tarts watching the bowl games. It was a lot of fun. I put it on my Instagram, and the Pop-Tart, the Pop-Tart US account responded to me and asked me what, my favorite, what's the best flavor. And they said there's only one right answer, and they put a strawberry emoji. So I agreed with them. So that was kind of nice.
We got breaking news in the chat. Got Ben, tremendous Ben, has super chatted us, and he says, "I hope all my fellow dog fans keep it classy." Now, why wouldn't they?
Thanks, Ben. We appreciate that.
They are in the national championship game
for sure. And David is in. Are you in your brother's place, or you're in your house now?
I'm in my house.
Okay, I'm out in the desert right now, so we can't do this in studio. Feeling a lot better from the COVID stuff. So thanks, people that were checking in on me. But yes, feeling a lot better. So we're doing this remotely. But this is a full Dave show. StreamYard, he's doing all the video, doing all the things. I can just be David and just talk and then walk away. And David puts all the stuff up. Mm-hmm. He didn't tweet it outright. He put it in replies for some reason.
I did not do that. Your boy Elon did that. He has broken his website again.
Yeah, but we are live on our YouTube channel, so we appreciate you that. And if you're listening across our podcast network, we love that as well. We do have some email questions. If you want to send us an email, pac12podcast@gmail.com, or you can call or text us at 424-532-0678, and tweet, of course, at Pac12 Podcast, and the website, pac12podcast.com. Did we get any new reviews on the Apple Podcasting app, which we love? If you could go over there and follow us and give us a 5-star rating and review.
Yeah, if you'll let me answer the question, Ryan. Yes, we did. Trenton Bruin, a 5-star review. Consistently excellent. It is a weekly pleasure to listen to this fun podcast. It keeps me connected with my West Coast and Pac-12 roots, despite living on the East Coast. Thank you for your consistently funny banter and interesting insights. Highly recommend. Different show? Like, did he find something else?
Sometimes they leave reviews for the wrong show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be what that one was. I mean, thanks. It's a 5-star review. You followed the rules, but geez. Laying it on a bit thick. 5-star review from Big Boy 574. This is more my speed. The subject line just simply reads "bad," and then the body is "This podcast blows 5 stars."
Oh, nice.
Perfect. Love it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Appreciate that very, very, very much. So we got a good show today. There's 2 games we need to recap, and I don't have my sound.
Can you say that with any certainty at this point that we have a good show today?
Well,
it could be good, but we don't know.
Sometimes they're good.
I mean, we can say after the fact, "Oh, that felt good. That was pretty good," or you can say, "Oh, wow, I was kind of a dick that day, and it didn't sound very good."
Well, I think you have the potential for that today because somehow, with the FPI rankings were like 99.9% chance to win or lose. I was 99%
back up real quick.
Yeah, to lose. Dave, we did 2 picks this last week. Dave took this thing called Liberty against what we know as Oregon team that always just beats the crap out of terrible teams. It was 6-0 Liberty, and I felt like, oh, maybe they don't cover here, but I kept the faith, and it was not pretty. So I now have taken the lead in the picks against the spread. I went 2-0. I'm 12 games, I believe, above 500 now. So pretty darn good. 10 games for Dave is great, but not good enough to be beating me. We have 1 game left, so we'll see what happens there. But yay, I took the picks conference, the title over. So a good week for me on my bookie this week because I went 2-0. I almost did the money line on Washington. I should have did that for a little bit extra juice, but hopefully you guys have checked out my bookie. A lot of fun. I've had a great time all season putting my picks in there where we talk about the picks, but also put a little juice on those picks as well. And during the holidays, you can get a cash bonus for your first deposit. So make sure you go over to my bookie and check it all out. But they've been a great partner for us, and it's really changed. I've had a lot of fun being able to put some, making actual bets on some of these games that we do the picks on. For whatever reason, we take these picks like super seriously, and we want to beat each other. We're sending each other texts and everything. And Dave was pretty quiet during the Oregon game. He wouldn't respond to me. So I don't, I'm not sure why. Maybe just because he felt that, his picks. He's 2-6 picking Pac-12 teams against the spread in the bowl season. Really got that Oregon. I couldn't be. I don't know how wrong he could have been on the Oregon game, but holy cow, was that terrible. But yeah, so I took the lead, and that's great. But I've done it all over at my bookie. Make sure you go over there, check it out. The promo code is Pac-12, so it's going to stay the same, even though the Pac-12 is going away. Our promo code is still Pac-12. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only at my bookie, and use promo code Pac-12.
Since Arizona State upset UCLA in the Rose Bowl, I have gone 6-15 against the spread.
And you were on. I mean, to be fair, you were on fire. You were crushing.
6-15 against the spread.
You were still 10 games over 500, so you were whatever. Like you were close to 20 games over 500 then.
Yeah, no.
And there were some really weird ones where it was like, the team shouldn't have punted at the end, or like you were getting some wins, and I was like, oh my god, like how did that even happen? And you're just like, hey, and then something turned. So
yeah.
Not that anybody gives a crap, but I'm going to be champion unless Dave could tie me with this final game. So we'll see.
That's true.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun doing all the picks and everything throughout the season. And we'll talk about these 2 games that happened on New Year's Day. I was out here kind of recovering from COVID and just sitting on the couch, eating my Pop-Tarts and watching a great day of college football. It was cool just to see, like, you got the Oregon game and then a really good first semifinal with, Michigan and Alabama. And just, that was like a rock fight. Just nobody, punting up from your own, from the opponent's 35 and crap like that, stuff that you would love on 4th and 1. And then the exciting, other semifinal game with Washington literally where Kalen DeBoer is just like outsmarting everyone, and then the piano fell from the sky in the last couple of minutes and landed on his head. So those pianos can just hit anybody. And but Washington ends up getting the win. Crazy stuff, but it was a fun day. Did you get to watch the whole day of college football, David?
I did. It was a very good day. The two semifinals both being good games is a rarity.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever happened.
Yeah, that was awesome. I think I joined Washington fans in both celebrating and wanting to murder Kalen DeBoer in the final 2 minutes of that game. But yeah, really, really exciting day of football, and obviously very exciting that Washington is back in the
I think I tweeted out like a Wile E. Coyote gif or whatever, like that Kalen DeBoer is a super genius, and then he was.
dude,
these are all still smart as they are, they're still football coaches.
We got to get into this because all right, let's start the recaps.
Okay, we're gonna do our recap. Pac-12 roundup. I did a sound effect. Sorry,
that was good. Pac-12 roundup.
So first up, we had the Fiesta Bowl.
This featured Oregon taking on the Liberty Flames. Oh, I'm Jerry Falwell and I'm burning in hell.
Should we do the Oregon sound or no?
Quack, quack, quack. Oregon beat the shit out of them.
Yes.
The last point Liberty scored was on the touchdown because they couldn't even make the PAT. They were outscored 45-0 to close this game out.
Pretty good.
45-0 over the final 3 quarters or 42-0 over the final 3 quarters because Oregon only scored 3 in the first quarter.
Oregon was a 16.5 point favorite. And I, of course, got this one right, and David
did not.
Took Liberty.
Yeah, you gave me Liberty, but instead you gave me death. Bo Nix played really well. It was sort of just kind of a celebration of Oregon football. Like it was, I mean, they were just kind of having fun out there. There's really not a whole lot to say. They kind of drove the like Bo Nix adopted brother Tez Johnson narrative into the ground and then like stomped on it over and over and over again.
That's been driven to the ground the entire season.
It's incredible.
And they took it to a new level in this one. Yeah,
it was an insane level. And it was because, I mean, Tez Johnson played probably his best game of the season. But that was, a little maddening to listen to. But I thought Oregon's defense was really awesome in this game. Liberty, I mean, I know this game looked a certain way. They did have a really good offense. That guy, it's the Coastal Carolina guy who, has a really innovative scheme, and they just shut it down.
Chadwell, yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive. Oregon, but for Washington existing this year, Oregon had the makeup of a playoff team. Unfortunately, they were in the same league as Washington. But this was a dominating effort. And I think, it's like one of those years in the early teens, early 2010s, where Oregon and Stanford would both be elite, but only one of them could, advance, or sometimes neither of them did because one would take a weird loss and one would take the loss to the other team. That's what this year kind of felt like because Oregon is I mean, most of the power rating systems will tell you Oregon's better. And obviously they're not because they lost twice to Washington. But this was still an elite Oregon team. And they showed it in this game. I mean, yes, Liberty was power rated way below where they probably shouldn't have been the G5 representative in this game. But still beating them by 39 is wildly, wildly impressive. So I think if you're an Oregon fan, obviously maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity. But I would still say this team and their season is fundamentally better than any of those Cristobal seasons. Like, I don't think you're stuck in the cycle of having really talented teams that just flame out. I mean, this was just the unfortunate reality that they were going against they had to play against Washington twice when Washington's at its peak level. And they have Kalen DeBoer is an elite game coach. Results of the final 2 minutes of the CFP semifinal notwithstanding. But I think Oregon fans, you got to be happy with your season. I mean, this was an elite dominating team, and I think Dan Lanning continues to reload with lots of talent, and they're gonna break through at some point here soon.
You could see early on why Liberty had as much success as they did. One of the best rushing teams in the country. If you hadn't seen that offense, Jamie Chadwell, I mean, like they got the triple option stuff going on. That quarterback, I forget his name, but he's now in the transfer portal after that. But he looked really good, especially that first, that kind of opening drive for Liberty. I think early on it was
he looked really good in a game where they scored 6 points. Is that what you're telling me?
The first drive.
Yeah. And then what did he look like? Then he looked like dog doo-doo.
Yeah, it was like banter, whatever. What's the banta doo-doo or whatever like they say. But you could see like the triple option thing sort of working. It was like a second or third and long, and it was one of those things where you fake the handoff inside, and it ends up being a pitch outside, and Oregon was crashing in and just goes around the corner and like picks up a first down and get really exciting. And then all of a sudden they missed that extra point. They end up scoring a touchdown, some really good catches and stuff, and then they end up missing the extra point. But you could see like, wow, okay, like this is a team that could keep Oregon on its toes. But you could also tell just by watching this game, like they hadn't played the dudes that they were playing against, and they had the 130th or 31st schedule in the country. They didn't have athletes like Oregon has, and you sort of caught them off. Oregon kind of got caught off guard, I guess, early on. But then every once in a while, it's just like, oh, that normally would be a great play, but they couldn't do it. Or, oh, that their receiver wouldn't get that open. We have to hold them. Like there was a lot of penalties. They were trying to sort of make up for you could see Liberty trying to make up for the gap in athleticism that they just never had to make up during the season. They're smart football, really cool schemes and stuff. But they weren't facing way better players on the other side. And that, after that first touchdown, you could just see the gap in athleticism between Oregon and what Liberty had. And it wasn't enough. You couldn't keep doing those things where like, wow, that play worked perfectly. And they got Oregon off guard. Like it just wasn't going to keep working. And I thought they could have, the way it was working early, I thought they could get a few more scores, but it sort of just snowballed. And I think at the end of the first half, Oregon gets a late score. I mean, it was just a lot that was going. It was just too much for Liberty to overcome, and Oregon sort of did what Oregon does. And they didn't have Troy Franklin in this one, so you heard a lot about Tez and everything, but they could run the ball. When you're just handing it off and it's 2nd and 2 a lot, you're going to have a ton of success. So it looked bad early. You're like, man, they're not going to be able to stop Oregon, or Oregon's not going to be able to stop this team. And then they did, and then they just kept scoring, and then they just kept scoring. And I was looking at the spread. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, they're covering the spread in the second quarter. This is perfect. Where in the beginning, you're like, if you're 3-score spread and then the other team scores a first touchdown, you're like, oh, well, 4 scores they have to come back by. Well, that didn't take very long, and they did. But you could just see one team had way better athletes than the other. There's a reason why you say this team played a horrible schedule. Yes, they look good. Yes, they ran the ball, but their schedule was terrible. When they played a good team, they just got crushed, and that's what this was.
Lovely. 39-point win for Oregon, and they go into the offseason 12-2. Very exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of optimism there. Going, like, you want to have some momentum going in the Big Ten, like UCLA does, winning their bowl game, USC winning their bowl game, Oregon getting a big win. So a lot of momentum going into the Big Ten for the 4 schools, especially UCLA, man. Like getting that big bowl win, $5 billion stadium. It's good.
I realize for a lot of people, it's not a visual medium. So I'm shaking my head in silence, and I can't threaten Ryan because he filed what's called a restraining order. So instead, I will just silently wish bad things for him.
Yeah. There's something going on with Dorian Singer. Did I see?
Yeah, he's transferring.
Did he announce where, or he's going to the portal?
Portal.
Okay. Yeah. Someone asked in the chat, like, thoughts on that. I mean, you're the second leading receiver in the Pac-12, and you transfer to the team that has the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and you don't do very much. Yeah, I mean, I would transfer again. So it just didn't work. Whatever reason, I don't know the details behind what happened, but you expected a lot more from Dorian Singer in this offense, and it didn't happen. So
you should go back to Arizona.
Why not? Like,
yeah,
I think we've seen people do that. I think
the quarterback who tried to get in a fight with him on the sideline is gone now. So
Jaden Flora, yeah,
head on back, buddy.
Yeah, he had a huge year at Arizona, and then the quarterback punches him.
Yeah,
so you're like, oh, what?
I think West Texas Mike is clowning on you a little bit.
What's he saying?
Question: did Ryan notice a difference in talent between Liberty and Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl?
Yeah, that's why I got the pick right, West Texas Mike. Boom.
So just so everyone knows behind the curtain, the reason Ryan wanted to talk about that one so extensively is because that's the game that he got right and that I got wrong. That's fundamentally 100%.
I got both games right. So
yeah. But that's the one. Like you'll be normal about the Washington game, but that one you're like, no. I'm gonna really lay into this one. I'm gonna lay it on very, very thick. All of the reasons why this was such an obvious pick for me and why Dave is stupid. Implicitly though, not explicitly.
I was worried in the beginning.
Yeah, I bet you were. All right, let's move on.
Yes. We got to move to the Sugar Bowl. They didn't have a live beignet mascot or anything, which I think is just a missed opportunity.
It should just be a bunch of sugar.
Yeah, so someone put it on Twitter like you should do powdered sugar over the coach's head at the end, just like fill him with sugar. That would be great.
It would be great.
But yeah, big the second semifinal matchup for college football playoff
between the Washington Huskies and the Texas Longhorns. I'm a big cow. Moo. Wow, what a fun game. So first, Washington won 37-31. Now, that covers a lot of sins. We're going to get into the final bit of the game in a second, but first we got to start with something that I think is essential for understanding this game. Because if you didn't watch, you look at Michael Penix's numbers and you're like, 29-38, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. But if you watched this game and you saw the fucking throws this guy was making in especially the first half and then late in the fourth quarter, it was insane what he was doing and what his receivers were doing. Like every single time Washington got single coverage downfield, it was a bomb completion. Every goddamn time. And we joked about that in the preview. Oh, Michael Penix in a dome. This is going to be nuts.
No.
And then it was. And it was insane. It
was every down was like conservative football teams on 2nd and 1. That's when they take their shot down the field. That was 1st and 10.
Bombs away.
3rd and 20. Like, are we going to throw a screen pass? No, we're going to throw it 20 yards and try to get if there was a chance to take a shot, they took a shot.
Well, and the thing is, what I was worried about at halftime was it felt like Washington should have been up 10-14 points, and it was tied. It was 21-all at halftime because of special teams issues, like just gong show nonsense. But Washington was dominating the game. They were throwing the ball great, not running the ball really at all. And Texas was able to move the ball on the ground, and then they kept throwing it with Quinn Ewers because Steve Sarkisian likes to lose football games. CJ Baxter I think he got hurt late, but he was averaging 7 yards a carry, and they only let him carry the ball 9 times. Are you stupid? Like, are you dumb or something? So anyway, it was 21-all at halftime, and then Washington came on, put on a blitz in the third quarter that put them up 10. And then they were up, I think it was 13 in the fourth quarter. Let me get the play-by-play right, because this was absolutely maddening to watch the end of this game. So, yeah, Washington is up 34-21, and they've got the ball at their own 24 with 12:39 to go. And can I all right, so 12:39 to go. They're up 13. in the fourth quarter.
And I think
how many runs? How many runs would you say Washington would call right there? Like if you were Washington's head coach,
like all of them. No, they threw the ball every time.
They threw the ball every single down. Every single down they threw the ball. And at some level, I respect it. At some level, you're like, this is my brand. I'm committing to it. This is who we are. We are bombs away. And at the other hand, it's like, maybe just run a little bit of clock. Like, it's not like Texas is just like completely moving the ball every single time.
No.
Just maybe like get 2 to 3 minutes off the clock. Maybe just try and see what happens. They don't. And then Texas gets the ball, drives it down, scores in about 4 minutes. Then Washington gets the ball again, and they drive it down for a field goal. But this was also insane because if you were watching this one closely, you see, Tybo Rogers run. Okay, well, they were finally running the ball a little bit. If you saw the runs they were calling, they were pitches. And it's like, so you're going to take the conservative play, but you're going to add an element of danger to it. A pitch against like aggressive defense trying to create a turnover. And they kept giving the ball to Tybo Rogers, who did basically nothing in this game except get hit really hard and look like he was fumbling every single time. Baffling. Insanity. And we haven't even gotten to the really crazy stuff yet. Like, it was so nuts that they weren't just, okay, we're going to run it up the middle. We're going to run it up the middle. We're going to run it up the middle. Like, and on the final down, I think they threw it. I think they threw it to Will Nixon on 3rd and goal from the Texas 10. And it's like, you're not going to make it. Like, it's probably not going to happen for you. So why not just run it again? You know, like, why not just give it a go? They don't. They kick the field goal. So then they go up 37-28 with 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. You're thinking, okay. I mean, the crazy stuff happens in college football, but we're probably pretty good now. Texas then gets the ball, drives down the field in 1:31. So with a minute left, they I think it was kick the field goal.
Just a 9-point lead, basically. With a
9-point lead. So they have to score twice. They have to score a field goal and a touchdown to win, or 2 touchdowns or whatever. They get it down with about a minute to go, and they kick the field goal, Texas. So Washington gets the ball back. And despite what the announcers were saying, because I don't know if they just can't do math or what, unless Washington got a first down, Texas was always going to get the ball back. Like, that was always going to happen. They couldn't run out the clock. So I don't really necessarily have a problem with DeBoer deciding to run the ball instead of just taking knees. My complication, so here's what happens. 1st and 10, Dylan Johnson, 2 yards, timeout Texas. Texas has all of its timeouts. And on 3rd and 5, they run again, and Dylan Johnson gets hurt with 50 seconds to go. Now, it's a stupid rule. There's this rule that if there's an injury, the clock stops, even if that injury is penalizing the team that's ahead. Like, there should be game and context clues that should be added to these rules. Because it's basically to prevent gamesmanship on the part of a team that's behind, but the team ahead isn't trying to do gamesmanship. Dylan Johnson was just hurt.
He was actually hurt. Yeah.
But that stops the clock without using a timeout. So then Texas has the ability to get the ball back there on 4th and 5. Now, here's where I deviate from DeBoer, because they were at the Texas 39 at that point. And you've got to understand your defense has had some porous issues at times during this game. You've got it at 4th and 5 on their 39. Texas still has to drive the ball 60 yards and score a touchdown. Put the ball in your best player's hands and just make a play and see if you can end this game in regulation. Without, not in regulation, but with your offense on the field. Because your defense is kind of doo-doo. Like, not completely doo-doo, but let's be honest, Washington fans, it's not like great. And your best player can just do another thing that he does, which is throw completions. So I would have liked to have seen them go for it on 4th and 5 from the Texas 39 and just end it right then. Because then Texas made it really interesting, and we had to see maybe the best PBU in Washington history to actually win this.
Yes.
Game. Exciting game. Loved it. Every bit of it.
Yeah, that the stuff at the end, I think that rule does suck with it would have been, I think someone in the chat said about 15 seconds left. Jim said that. So if you took I get you don't need to take knees, because if you get a first down, you end the game. You can't end the game by taking the knees. So you would
don't
just
want to
basically
punt. You like there's so many things you don't want to do, but punting is also one of the things you don't want to do, because two things. One, you can mess up the snap. It's college, it's not the NFL. Like a lot of people who say this stuff like, oh, they should take 3 knees, it feels like they're NFL people. Like you watch a lot of NFL football where all this stuff generally happens easily, where you see specialists do their jobs well and easily. It doesn't happen like that in college. Like guys screw this stuff up all the time. So you're allowing the other team essentially 3 opportunities at that point. If you punt it with 15 seconds to go, they screw up the punt, they allow a huge punt return, or with 15 seconds to go, a team that has a good offense does some silly shit and gets one big completion for 40 yards and then another one going into the end zone. Like it's not like the sure thing that it is at like a professional level where it's, oh yeah, you get it down over there on their 10 with 15 seconds to go, it's a done deal. It's just not in college football.
You definitely don't want to have your gunner like run into the kicker, the return guy, and get 50 free yards. Like that was one of the dumbest. Like, there's
so many stupid things happening, and like at some level, you're like, okay, Washington is this aggressive team, and they like to play aggressively and all that kind of stuff. But at some level, it's just like, oh, no, you're not aggressive. You're crazy. Like you're an insane person. Like Kalen DeBoer looks like the most milquetoast guy, but like inside his brain is just like it's just crashing cymbals at all times. Like it's just yes,
yeah.
Like it's just like the most metal song going on in his head at all times.
But this was definitely Pac-12 after dark, and if I would have hated it if Washington lost, but it probably would have been a perfect way to end the Pac-12. Like you were going to advance to the national championship game, and you essentially blew it. You're up 9 points with like 2 minutes left, and you lost somehow to a team that wasn't really dynamic on offense. They were just making some plays every once in a while. That was pretty crazy. But to watch the first semifinal where Michigan was like super conservative. I'm sure this was killing you, how conservative they were. They had like a small lead on Alabama, and they're still just running the ball. They're not taking chances. They're going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, like throughout the third quarter. Like they were just terrible. They were just like hanging on to this lead. And then Alabama takes the lead, and it was good. It was really cool comeback for Michigan, but they were only trying to score when they like had to try to score. Where like what it was like so different than what Washington was doing. Like it's 3rd and 9, like let's just run it to try to get some field position, as opposed to like throwing a ball 9 yards. We don't want to do that and like risk losing the game.
So watching that game closely after watching some Michigan this year a little bit too, I don't think they have a good quarterback. Like I think
he's not that good.
He made some throws in that game where I'm like, yikes. There's like 6 Pac-12 guys who would have done that better.
Yeah. But it's going to set up a really fun style where like it was basically like you had Alabama and Michigan's like proving to the world we have enough athletes that we can out Alabama, where they can just run the ball, where Jalen Milroe only threw like 2 passes through the first like 2 quarters, something stupid. It wasn't like, that's obviously not what Washington is going to do, but like Michigan was sort of trying to out Alabama, and they got a lot of NFL dudes on that roster. They survived a rock fight with Alabama, which not a lot of people can do when they're just like bashing each other, and they were just bashing each other. They sacked him a whole bunch of times. Michigan's defense is legit, but they were not pushing the envelope at all. Where Washington, that's all they're doing is like pushing the envelope. So it's going to make for a really fun, rock fight team versus like fireworks team. So.
Yeah, and stylistically, it's going to be really interesting because Michigan, Texas. I make fun of Stark. Obviously, it's great to see him win some games, but he is of the same school of kind of dumbass offensive guy who just wants to like, I want to be like what they said at the beginning of that game. I thought was so interesting and so like such an interesting insight into a specific kind of dumbass is he, like they said in the script, he tries to get his top 8 playmakers involved on his first 8 plays or something like
He
that.
scripts like 40 something plays.
Yeah, and it's just such a very specific type of dumbass who's like, "Oh yeah, I want to show like what I can do and the balance and all the different tricks I can put out there." And it's like, homie, CJ Baxter's just running through this defense. Why don't you just keep giving him the ball? Michigan doesn't have that problem. If Blake Corum is getting stuff going against Washington's defense, they're going to run him 25 times in a row and they won't care. Like we don't care about that. I saw Jim Harbaugh's Stanford run the exact same play with Toby Gerhart the entire game against UCLA. And because UCLA couldn't stop it, they just kept doing it over and over and over again. It was a meat grinder. He doesn't care. He is another very specific type of psychopath. What's most interesting about this game is really is DeBoer versus Harbaugh. One's a hidden psycho, one's an obvious psycho, but just 2 psychopaths going at it. It's going to be absolute just fireworks on
It's going to be great. Awesome to see the Pac-12 in the national championship game. Great to see Kalen DeBoer. I know they got a lot of dudes that are going to be gone next year, but man, they're having a lot of fun with this one. And it's great for us. We get another week of talking about Pac-12 football. So in our picks contest, I'm up 1 game. So we'll do a quick preview of this one. I mean, we're talking about already. We got to do our picks against the spread. So we'll probably not do a show until after this game, David. Is that make sense?
I don't think we'll have time to do another one. So this will be our preview show as well. So we're going to preview the college football playoff national championship.
Nice. It's good. So, we kind of talked about it already a little bit with the contrasts and styles.
Can we? Ben has an important point. Sark's fake Southern accent. Did you hear him giving interviews?
Yeah, it was like he's trying to sound Texas-y.
Yeah, elongating like certain sounds and stuff, and it's like, dude, you're from Torrance.
You're from Torrance. Yeah,
Torrance. Like you should sound
like Mall.
You should sound like me, bro. Like not. No, you're not doing a fake Southern accent. I'm not allowing this. Brian Kelly, whatever. Who even knows where Brian Kelly's from?
He's from like New England, I think.
But come on, Sark.
Brian Kelly fired his defensive staff this morning. So
yeah, he should fire himself.
He's done all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. So the Michigan, they've half their regular season games were without their head coach. He did a press conference earlier, Harbaugh, and wasn't saying anything. He said about Michael Penix, super great or something like that. They could potentially vacate wins and all this stuff. He is being he's basically being like Nick Saban through all this stuff. And, I don't think Washington's going to come in with this one with a happy to be there sort of, mantra. Michael Penix, when you heard him afterwards, it's just this was our goal. We want to try to win a championship. And we got what, you talk about, this was great. We beat Texas, but we got one more. I mean, just the sense after the game, you feel like Washington is ready for this. Where do you think this is the best team in the country? Would Georgia beat Washington? Yeah, maybe, probably, or whatever. But
would they? You know how many straight games Kalen DeBoer's won now? 21.
It's a lot. It's crazy, and you're just looking at it why can't you do this? It will, like you mentioned, there's not an SEC buzzsaw that just has number 1 picks everywhere. Now, Michigan has a lot of that. They have a lot of the SEC feel, but I don't know. It's not the same. It doesn't feel like Michigan is the crazy buzzsaw that a Georgia would have been or an Alabama would have been, or even LSU.
I watched Michigan play. I watched their quarterback. They're not a buzzsaw. They're good. Yeah. They're really, really, really good. Line play, I expect Washington to have some issues. But here's the thing I would say about Washington is Penix, I would say, I'm still pronouncing it like that. Even though I'm not making any of the jokes anymore, I'm still calling him Michael Penix. Just commitment to a bit at a subconscious level. I would have said he looked healthy. Like, and that's a
Yeah.
weird thing to say about a guy who looked really good all year, but back half of the season, he didn't look quite right. This game, he was back to looking like, oh shit, this guy can make any throw he wants to make. And he was running the ball too, which I think it's not an important part of that offense at all.
No,
But when he can do it, like when he can do a little pressure release, like I'm going to go get 8-9 yards, it adds such a devastating element because suddenly, okay, you're telling me we got to cover all these receivers and we got to cover this dude out of the backfield, these dudes out of the backfield, Westover, Dylan Johnson, all these guys. And now we also have to contend with the idea that this guy's going to, scamper for 9-10 yards when we leave him uncovered. I mean, I would just quit as a defense. I'd be like, nah.
I think he had his longest run of the season in that game. And then he had a couple of them that were about the same, like I think 12 yards. That was like his longest of the season. And he had like 3 of those in the game. And apparently Dylan Johnson said he's going to play. So
yeah, and somebody tweeted this out. I think it was Mina Kimes, but she said, Michael Penix looks like he runs like I do on a treadmill when I see somebody I know, where I suddenly like, oh yeah, no, I can really run, which is totally perfect evaluation. But when he can do that, it's when anybody can do it, and it's not, he's not a dual threat by any stretch of the imagination. But when they show a willingness, and when are you not going to show a willingness in a college football playoff game? So that's an element that Michigan now has to prepare for. And Michigan's a great defense. It'll be really, but they just went against an Alabama team that has subpar play at quarterback, I would say. Mediocre. I think he ran through a pretty rough SEC this year, but mediocre play at quarterback. Now they have to deal with probably the best offensive player in the country.
He should have won Heisman.
And Roma Dunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk. I think you nailed it when we were talking about the other game. It's just styles. It's such a contrast, and which style ends up dominating is because I could see a scenario where Michigan just commits to pounding the ball, and they just control the game.
Right.
Time of possession, 40-20. They score 28 points, and they just never give Washington breathing room. But I could also see Washington just going bombs away and being able to hit some big throws downfield and putting Michigan in a catch-up mode. And if Washington gets an early lead of anything substantial, like 10 points, I could see Washington winning this by 3 touchdowns. I can also see Michigan winning it by 3 touchdowns. Like it's just there's such a contrast.
Which style takes the lead?
Yeah, exactly.
Because like Penix, when you're looking at that, like if you're going like highlights of a game like Michigan, they're like, oh, he had this one bomb that this guy made a great catch on. That's like a average Washington play. Like the best play you've had all season is like Washington did like 5 of those in the Texas game alone. That's what the styles are so different. And I feel like Michigan's going to have a ton of dudes drafted. They got NFL guys all over the place. But Dave mentioned there isn't the kind of quarterback. I feel like this is early Alabama championship team where they could run the ball, play defense. They didn't need the crazy offense. And, you didn't have like Devontae Smith or Tua Tagovailoa, like guys that were just Saban learned. And that's part of the reason why he's the greatest ever is because he's won championships different ways and adapted when, you bring in, we have the best defense in the country and they're still scoring on us. Like, okay, well, why don't we do that too? And so they are the more dynamic offenses now. And, we saw like, Georgia having, dynamic quarterback play and Alabama having dynamic quarterback play and like tons of great wide receivers and stuff. They changed it to go along with, we can run the ball. We have Najee Harris and, great offensive line and we're playing great defense still. Michigan feels like it's more the older school, early Saban championships where you don't have that dynamic quarterback. And if Washington can score on some of those things, now Washington hit a lot of those big plays. Like some of those aren't high percentage ones where like Udunze making a contested catch with 2 guys on,
but
but they make it look high
aren't they
percentage
kind of?
yeah.
Like it's yes, on a basic level. No, that's not a high percentage play because in college football, guys don't hit that a lot. But Washington
he
does. Like
Yeah.
Washington hits that shit all the time. And so, like when you're seeing Odunze make ridiculous catches downfield, well, a lot of times it's in man coverage. And what do you see in the NFL all the time? Like if your top guy has man coverage, has a single guy on him, you're throwing it to him no matter what. Like you're just okay. I'm throwing it to him and letting him make a play. Well, Odunze is an NFL receiver. Michael Penix is an NFL quarterback. They're doing NFL things. I mean, it's a contested catch and it's very hard, but I mean the ball placement. The one in the fourth quarter, this wasn't even to Odunze, I think. I think it might have been Jalen Polk, where he's running down the sideline. The cornerback is right next to him, running down the sideline too. And the ball comes in, and literally as he's turning, it hits him here in full stride.
Yeah.
And it's like that corner's actually got good defense. Like he's covered this well. And nothing, absolutely nothing you can do to stop that. Like the ball placement, the receiving ability. I mean, just the combination with all of this is, I mean, it's one of the most impressive passing attacks I think I've ever seen. Like, and you have to watch it, because it's, the stats do tell a story, and the story is very impressive. But watching it is just another world. Like, I can't remember the last quarterback who had such accuracy throwing deep in college football. Like it's all the time. Like it's like I think he missed one throw deep this game. One. And it was in like that one brief stretch where Texas was finally getting some pressure. And that's another thing. I mean, Washington's offensive line has been maligned by our friend Hifliday a lot over the years. They were really impressive in this game. And I'm interested to see how they look against Michigan's defensive line.
When you see say an Indiana or somebody, or like Purdue, like when like Braum was there, like, oh, well, I got this like prolific passing attack and they're like scoring tons of points, and then they play Michigan and it gets shut down. And you're like, well, they didn't have guys running wide open. Michigan had corners that were running with these dudes, and Purdue's offense wasn't predicated on hitting tight windows. It was like scheming guys open and stuff. And so you're hitting, you don't need a catch radius that's huge. Like you're just hitting, the pass doesn't have to be perfect. The Michigan's going to have guys that can cover dudes, but now this isn't predicated on guys running wide open. Like it's nice if you get that and DeBoer can scheme guys, but Penix can put it there where you have great coverage and we have a better receiver than even your great corner is. And you have a quarterback that can put it, like you said, right on the right spot and boom. And so that's why, I mean, Michigan's going to make some plays and they might break up some of those passes, but that you have to give Washington a puncher's chance in this one because it's not dependent on, we just had guys open all the time. Like they have guys that aren't open and they're still completing these, really explosive plays in the pass game, which can be demoralizing for a defense. I mean, just attempting that pass where, I think it was the Michigan game. It was like a 3rd and 9 and they weren't pushing the ball. They weren't getting first downs. And I think they ran like a flea flicker. Like it was like a trick, 3rd and 9. We're going to we're not going to throw a pass, but we'll throw a trick play to make it look like we're running and then throw a pass. Like they didn't even want to attempt throwing a ball downfield, like just normally, and the conventional way or whatever, and conventional way. And that's what Washington does, and they feel very comfortable doing it. And I think something like that, where defenses are used to, they don't want to take a chance here because we could no. And I think you realize that when that team gives no Fs, they're just we're going to throw the ball downfield anytime we want on 2nd and 1, on 3rd and 20, on 1st and 10. We're going to do it. It changes the mentality, I think, of the defense where they're not just, oh, well, let's run a screenplay and try to pick up some yards, or let's do the draw because that's safe. Nothing's safe. So that's why I think this is going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. And DeBoer, again, he just wins football games. He's lost 11 times in his entire career as a head coach.
Yeah, it was. Remember years. What was that? Was it Chris Peterson? or whatever. He was like 110 or whatever when he was at
Yeah.
Boise State.
No, it's like exact same thing. Like just wins games and just sometimes looks like he got a piano hitting him in the head, but boy howdy, just wins football games.
Well, why don't we do our picks for this one? Or do you need to do the Michigan?
Oh yeah, we just talked about the game. We didn't even do the thing. Michigan Wolverines. What does a Wolverine do? Like a Wolverine's like a little rodent.
No, they're like meat. They're like it's like a
whatever.
I'll
go with
yeah, that's good.
Okay. Taking on the Washington Huskies, rough. This game is 4:30 p.m. on Monday, ESPN. Number 2 Washington versus number 1 Michigan should be in the Rose Bowl. It's not. 2 14-0 teams in NRG Stadium in Houston. What's NRG Stadium, Ryan? Is it a dome?
It is a dome.
Oh boy. Michigan is a 5-point favorite, despite strategically it being smarter to just pick opposite of whatever Ryan does. I can't in good conscience do that. Give me those dogs. Bow down.
So we talked about this before. You said I have to pick different than you. And I said, okay, I didn't look at the spread. I hadn't really thought about my pick. I did mention last week that if Washington advanced, they were going to play indoors twice. That's going to be great for Michael Penix. It was great in the first round. Getting 5 points, I feel very comfortable with that. They were getting 4 points against Texas. And even if Texas made that crazy comeback, they still would have covered the spread. I feel like that's the smart play here, that I'll take Kalen DeBoer, that winning streak, that offense, and 5 points. So I told David I was going to take Washington, which I will, giving him the opportunity to try to tie it. But so I don't want to pick just to go opposite you. I would, just that's for your strategy, not mine. I want to pick Washington this one, so I will take Washington. Do you want to change your mind?
That spread, who's your winner?
I don't think I was a super believer with, like, my gut was saying it's probably going to be like Texas and Alabama again. And that's not what it happened. I really was impressed with what Washington did and seeing how conservative Michigan was in this one. Like, Harbaugh probably should have lost that game. Like, they were down 7. And it was kind of a miracle that they came back. They didn't do anything after halftime. It was really sort of sad to see. And I feel like they're going to be that team that punts it on 4th and 1 at the Washington 40, and like Penix goes 90 yards and scores a touchdown. So I think I'm going to take Washington in this one. Would I be shocked if like Michigan just runs the ball and stuff can not go your way, right? It could be it all just works out for the bigger, stronger team to just kind of push you around a little bit. But I feel pretty good that Washington can win this game, which, to think about Washington being the national champion, the last winner of the college football playoff, not just the first team to make it since, 2016 or whatever, but to win it would be pretty impressive. But I'm leaning towards Washington now. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll go Washington. I think final score, Washington. It'll be lower scoring because Michigan's going to try to, and probably will, control time with a lot of ball control. I think it'll be like Washington 28, Michigan 24.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It should be fun, but I feel like Washington can get theirs, and Michigan's just not used to teams that could just be like, their weight, like, oh, Jalen Milroe, it's 3rd and 10. How do they pick up the first down? Like, he runs for it, like that's what no one's going to try to throw the 15-yard play on 3rd and 10 against us. Well, Washington will, and I think they're going to get a bunch of those. So it should be, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited for this one. So excited the Pac-12 is represented, and very excited that I beat David in the pick contest in the last year of the Pac-12.
That's very exciting for you.
You sure you don't want to go to take Michigan in this one.
No.
You're just gonna like concede.
No. This is the classic. This matters more to you than it does to me. You know, it's no big deal for me.
All right. I mean, I would feel terrible if I had like a huge lead on you and just collapsed like that. Like,
I'm really happy for you because this clearly matters a lot to you. It doesn't matter as much to me. Yeah, I'll take the.
I mean, it wouldn't matter to me if I was losing
That is
too.
the most annoying thing a person can say to you. Like the most annoying thing when you're competing in something, and they're just like, "Oh, well, it's no big deal for me." But I'm really happy for you. It's like
good thing I should pull out some of the old audio.
It's like when you're playing a game.
How many of the lead that you had and what you're talking about?
Okay, we got to answer some questions.
Yeah, should we take a quick break?
Sure. Back in a minute.
Better.
Was that good?
Yeah. It didn't go on really long like you like to do sometimes.
It didn't hurt as badly, which is probably ideal. Okay, where are we? We need
I think we have Ethan in DC.
Okay.
ACC equals but?
No, we did this one. Right?
Did we?
We recorded. What day did we record? I think it was Saturday Yeah, we did this one. That was our last question of that day. All right.
Okay.
It's Dave G in Roswell, Georgia.
Okay.
Arizona versus Oklahoma, Alamo Bowl deep dive. David and Ryan, your show is incredible, and I've been a listener since the beginning. I appreciate everything you do and want to thank you for continued coverage for the former Pac-12 teams next year. I wanted to provide some additional insight into the Alamo Bowl back and forth momentum. The pregame news focused on Dylan Gabriel sitting out, but not nearly as impactful was Arizona's projected first-round NFL pick, Jordan Morgan, who also sat out. Arizona started a freshman playing left tackle for the first time and added another first-time player at guard. The left side of the line held for first quarter until Oklahoma decided to blitz the left side in the second quarter. This left Fafita with no protection until Fish Carroll swapped out a few pieces and found protection in the fourth quarter. If you look at Arizona yards, they are all first and fourth quarters. The other big factor was the injury to Tacario Davis in the second quarter. He is the number 1 or number 2 defensive back on Arizona. Shortly after, Traden Stukes hurt his hand and left the game. Arizona was playing players who already entered portal at safety and rotated safety to corner. Traden had his hand wrapped up and came back into the game for the fourth quarter. So 2 massive developments changed the game in the second quarter, and then 2 coaching moves changed the game again in the fourth. I'm sure Ryan is now calling this the second most boring email of the year, so we'll end here with nothing but thanks for all you do, Dave G. in Roswell, Georgia. Appreciate the context.
G. Probably top 5 boring emails. No, but we talked about this. Arizona sort of disappeared in the middle of this game.
Yeah.
And we didn't, this sounds like a pretty, reasonable
it sounds plausible.
Reason.
Yeah.
Why? Like we saw that, and then the offense kind of caught fire again in the fourth quarter, where they weren't able to make adjustments to the pass rush and things like that. So yeah, that makes sense, Dave. Thanks for the context there behind what was going on. But we saw the offense look really good, then kind of just go away for a while, and then Oklahoma takes control, and then Arizona takes control back. So it makes a lot of sense.
All right, moving right along.
College football playoff POC cast. Hi, Ryan and Dave. If and only if Washington makes it to the college football playoff final, I think it would be a great idea for the POC to have a live podcast a la the Manning cast for Monday Night Football. I think it's pretty cool when ESPN has the coaches room during the championship game and they comment on the game. But the POC having a live pod during the college football playoff final, if Washington is in the game, is a great way to close out the Pac-12. Just a thought. Will it happen? Definitely no, but one can dream. Thanks again for all the good times this past season. Look forward to the POC basketball talk. Eric F. I've thought about doing this for sure. Something like this where it might be better if Dave and I are in the same room watching the game and just kind of, but the timing, like there'll be delays, I don't know. Do you think it would be feasible, Dave? Or
not Monday? No.
Okay, so Dave can't do it.
Yeah,
but I'm down with it, Eric.
Yeah, I might actually be starting the game a little bit late. I know.
Kids.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Kid bullshit at all times is my life. All right, we are moving on to Jamie. Injury timeout rule. Riven. Can either of you explain to me why a rule exists that prevents a team from running out the clock when someone on the team gets injured? I've spent too much time thinking about this, and I haven't been able to come up with one reason why this rule exists. Let's say, for example, you're in the Sugar Bowl and you're down by maybe 6 points or so. There's a minute left, it's third down, and you have no timeouts left. Obviously, you're hoping for a turnover, but if that doesn't happen, your best bet is to injure someone on the other team, giving you a free timeout. If I were a Washington fan, I would have been absolutely furious at the way it was handled last night. Thankfully, it didn't affect the outcome, but it almost did. People in hindsight will say Washington should have knelt the ball, which is a separate argument, but they wouldn't have been able to completely run out the clock, so I can understand why they tried running the ball and picking up a first down to ice the game. Great point, Jamie. This is one of those things where you need to give leeway beyond the rule book because the rule is in place for the other side. Like if you're coming back and you fake an injury, you want to make it so that like the other team has to do like a 10-second runoff or whatever. No, that wouldn't make sense. Why does this rule exist?
I don't know. I thought you could, once the play gets ready, you could start the clock again once it's like ready for play. So
this is just stupid. And they should. Yeah. I guess my larger point is still correct, but I don't know why this rule exists. The big thing is, they should take advantage into account when they are determining whether or not a rule should be enforced. And in this one, Washington, the team in the lead, is not getting any advantage from doing this. At the very worst, the clock should just start again on ball placement, not on snap. So
we're ready for play, then they can run the clock again.
I guess
you basically don't want like Washington like faking an injury, and that this wasn't the situation there. I think with Jamie's point is like you would try to injure the other team.
Yeah,
which
that's not good.
That seems I haven't heard that one where you're like, if you fake your own injury, that's one thing, but you're like, I'm going to go out and like sweep the leg or something. Because if you were able to do that, like if I was like cut a offensive lineman and like tear his ACL, then you're going to get a free timeout. But you just literally hurt a player to do that. Like I don't know if that would. I don't think any coaches ever instructed that. It's more about, hey, go down and pretend that you're injured, which that's a problem in different situations. That's not this situation, but Jamie brought up a point I never really thought about, that you would like just go out and try to injure the other guy so that they would have to take
but it's a great point.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. This one is from Ben, Anomaly or New Normal. Ben from Toronto here. How's it going, love your work and really enjoy the football season, this football season, especially with Washington in the championship game. I remember the 91 season when Washington beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl and never thought a team like Washington would have a chance at winning it all again. So he has two questions. Is the blue chip ratio dead, or is this just an outlier? You want to start with that?
Yeah. I don't think it's dead, and I think it's a really good framework for understanding college football. I'm not ready to say it's just a pure outlier, if only because I think the blue chip ratio, which is a brainchild of our Bud Elliott, it transfer portal rankings are, I would say, still in their nascent stages, and I don't know that we have like necessarily cracked the code on whether they are determinative of the talent level, because what you're often getting is an experienced good player, and an experienced good player is basically like a super 5-star out of high school. And if you're good at evaluating and you understand how a guy fits, like I don't know, what was our man Penix out of high school?
I don't remember. I mean, he ends up going to Indiana.
Yeah, because he was a 3-star out of high school. Now, and this isn't me being like, because he played like a 3-star at Indiana. Like he was pretty good, but he played like a 3-star at Indiana. But he's now in what? His like, I don't know, 6th year out of high school. He's a really, really experienced guy now who's taken a ton of reps, who was probably a little bit better than a 3-star coming out of high school. But that doesn't get accounted for necessarily in the blue chip ratio. And there can be guys like that on teams a little bit more with the transfer portal, because that's an imperfect science. Like our recruiting guys do a fantastic job. Our scouting guys do a fantastic job with high school because there's a lot of opportunities to evaluate. what you're evaluating in the transfer is basically how that guy performed in games in a different system for a different coach based on probably mostly stats. You're not watching like, I don't think those guys are watching game tape, of 12 games of each of those guys. But you know who is? The guy who's trying to win a national championship at Washington when he's evaluating his quarterback. So I think there's more room for coaches to out-evaluate the evaluators with the transfer portal, and that can impact the blue chip ratio thing. The transfer portal and combined with the COVID years for a lot of these guys just kind of changes the game because experience is a huge, huge factor that doesn't get talked about necessarily enough at the college level. Like when you've got a team of a bunch of 5th and 6th year guys at critical spots, it's tough to contend with. So I will say the blue chip ratio is still a major, major, major thing. But I do think it's interesting that this happened in this new world order, that this is kind of one of the first times this has happened. And potentially they'll win. And frankly, Michigan is not very high in the blue chip ratio either. They're above the cutoff, but not that far above the cutoff.
Like we've seen like BYU when they would have guys go on missions, and like if you're playing everyone that's 23 and 24, it's different, than if you're 20 and 21. I think also, this is an anomaly to me. Look at who've won the last several championships. It's been these SEC powers that have, their top 2 or 3 in the country as far as blue chip ratio goes. That's sort of been the norm. If Washington could do it again next year after losing all the guys they're going to lose, and they still have the same blue chip ratio, that would make a lot more sense. But
I mean, TCU was in it last year.
Right. And what did they do this year? Like TCU was in the national championship game. You're like, oh, the blue chip ratio doesn't matter. Like, no, they lost by 60 and then were under 500 this year or whatever.
It'll be interesting once the COVID years get kind of pushed out, whether it continues to look a little bit more like, these teams that are a little under talented can get in there. Because I think it's a lot more to do with the ease of the transfer portal now than necessarily the COVID year. But I'm interested to see what that
But there's some 6-year guys, and that definitely helps. It's like the NCAA tournament run by the team that's got like the 5th-year point guard, and like that just happens. Like they've played together a lot. So I think this is more of an anomaly.
All right, we got to start rapid firing some of these. You want to do number 2?
Yeah, second. Clock management nearly cost Washington the game in the last few minutes. Dave, where were your piano on heads tweets?
I'll tell you this. I was not emotionally disinvested from the game, and so I was actually just there getting baffled and angry. So I didn't have time to provide my like witty commentary because I'm sitting there, alongside, I think in spirit, many Washington fans being like, what the fuck, man? Stop, please stop. So yeah, no, that's where they were. They were in my brain, but not ready to come out.
All right.
Okay. This is my 63 Chevy. Better for college football and all its fans. Hey guys, with so many players opting out of bowl games, either because they enter the portal or the draft, it makes most bowl games even more unwatchable than they used to be. But I have a solution: make a 2014 playoff the way 1AA does: 11 auto bids, 13 at large, and top 8 receive a bye. You get 23 games that will all attract much bigger TV and attendance numbers than a random bowl game. Players won't opt out, leaving the teams at full power. And if the bowls have to be included, just make the quarterfinals, semis, and championship game be played at traditional bowl sites and rotate them. This gives every team hope at the start of the year. Just win your league and you get a ticket to the big dance while getting rid of meaningless bowl games that a lot of times feature teams that are gutted by transfers or opt-outs, and I only see that problem getting worse. I know the playoff is already expanding, but it should go to 24 and eliminate the chaff. That does not. No, that would increase the chaff. Anyway, does any average college football fan want to watch 67% of Kansas State play versus 80% of Tulane in the Cheez-It Bowl? Brought to you by Bad Boy Mowers featuring Jimmy Kimmel. You bring up an interesting point. I'm kind of disgusted with the way the like structural stuff is going in college football, the playoff expansion and all that kind of stuff. I do think from a certain angle, though, this is almost preferable to an 8-team or a 12-team playoff, if only because it does make it matter more to those 24 teams, because we've already broken through into stupidity. So why not go full stupid? Like if we're going to embrace the idea that we don't really care if a true champion is crowned. If only we can have a playoff where, stupid things happen, then go full stupid, go big, go 24 teams, go 36 teams, go fucking 64 teams. Who gives a shit? But I do think, the bigger problem is that we've gone ahead and invalidated most of like what was once kind of cool about college football. And I'm not talking about the bad boy mowers featuring Jimmy Kimmel, but like that Fiesta Bowl barely mattered. And I thought it was a real credit to Bo Nix that he played in that game.
Yeah.
And that's a weird feeling to have because the Fiesta Bowl used to be a really cool thing. Damn, that's awesome. That's a New Year's Six Bowl. But now it's like, oh, wow, that guy's going to play? Well, that changes the entire thinking. And it's just, and I don't know how much of that is hurt or aided by just changing nature of, how guys perceive the importance of college football or whatever. But I do think it's a lot of, we've made it so the only thing that matters is making the playoff and everything else is dog shit. Which is why I was hammering for the point for Oregon fans. You had a great season. Like, you didn't make the playoff. Who cares? You had a great season. And I think a lot of the narrative, and a lot of it's ESPN's fault, but everyone around college football is just that the only thing that matters is the playoff. So if that's true and everyone is adopting that angle, then you kind of have to be a little bit like, okay, well, if the only thing that's going to matter is the playoff, then you have to make the playoff bigger. But holding two thoughts within your mind, it's bad that it's the only thing that matters. Like, it's not good. This sport is not designed to crown a true national championship. It just isn't. Never has been. Never will be. But we're stuck here. So might as well.
Yeah, I think, and I don't think this would actually help that much if you're trying to fix the problem, because then you create playoff games that don't matter as much. I think people are going to opt out of. I mean, if you're going to just get smoked by Alabama in the first round, does that mean you're going to have everybody opt in just because it's a playoff game? I don't think that's a guarantee. I think there's things you can do. I think College Football Reddit said, hey, why don't you put some of the awards after the bowl games? So then it's like there's a reason to play in them, so you don't get the award beforehand. Like Michael Penix probably would have won the Heisman if they put the awards afterwards. And you might get some recency bias, but I think you might keep some guys playing into it. I think the scarcity of the playoff is a reason why you're not going to see playoff guys opt out. But if there's 24 teams in the playoff, you're going to see people opt out in there too.
You don't see many people opt out of the NCAA tournament. That's the only thing I'll say in that respect, is that you really
Fair.
don't. And so it's a different sport. Obviously, there's a higher risk of injury in football, but you got to understand a lot of these guys are motivated by like profound optimism. Athletes, if you ever talk to one of these guys or one of their coaches, like, yeah, they can get negative about certain things, but like they always think they're going to win. Like they always think, oh yeah, we're going to beat that ass. And so, you stick them in a 2014 playoff, they're probably going to play because they think they're going to win.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right, we gotta move very rapidly or not.
Okay.
Really.
Fun with money from Rudy. Hi, Ryan and David. I've been a UCLA season ticket holder since 2006. As I watched the Rose Bowl on Monday, I looked at my friend with whom I share the tickets and said to him that I was wondering how much money the Alabama, Michigan, Washington, and Texas fans paid for their tickets, travel, hotel, food, etc. I was also amazed that two of those fan bases will do it again in a week. It made me thankful to Martin Jarmond and Chip Kelly. You see, thanks to them, I won't have to spend a bunch of money traveling to two awesome bowl games. Instead, I'll be able to use my money to take a golf trip, to go to some Dodger road games, and go on vacation with my wife. Thanks, Martin and Chip, for making football no fun. Here's my actual question. Imagine all college football coaches are pretty competitive guys. They want to win. They may not be good at their jobs, but they still want to win. Does Chip Kelly actually want to win football games? This is not me being facetious. It's a serious question. Does he actually want to win football games? How can he watch other teams pass him by and think, yep, I'm doing this right? Thanks for letting me vent. And for the podcast, keep up the great work. Good, acceptable work. Rudy.
Really quick. I think he wants to win them on his terms. I don't think that like I'll do anything to win mentality has any bearing on Chip Kelly. I think he wants to win on his terms and do his thing, and that's just what it is.
It's the term. That's exactly right. I think for years when USC kept hiring terrible athletic directors, and you're like, do you think they wanted to win? Yes, but they also wanted to win on their terms. Like, we don't want to win. We'd like to win with Clay Helton as the head coach, but we're not going to go get some guy that's going to like cause a lot of problems. And they're more like hoping to win, but they're going to do it their way. That's what's more important to them. To the fan, you're like, do whatever you need to do, get every player, hire every coach you want, as long as that makes you win. They're not willing to do that. They would like to win, but it's more of hoping to win as opposed to their process of the way they want to do things is more important than I'm going to do it a different way that I think would get me victories.
All right, this is a question for you, and I want you to answer in 20 seconds.
Okay.
Kalen DeBoer. Hi, guys. I just want to know if Ryan will now concede that Kalen DeBoer is a better coach than Lincoln Riley since he has officially accomplished more in 2 years of being a Power 5 head coach than Riley ever has in 7 years. Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, we already talked about this. Like, he's made it to the championship game. Like, he's done more than Riley has as far as he should have had a Heisman winner. And he hasn't been around that long. He will get Heisman winners, which is something that Riley's done. He's made the playoff, which is something Riley did, but he's actually advanced too. So, I think he's got to be one of the best coaches in the country right now.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, that's it for us. We got to go. We got to blow this popsicle stand.
Thanks, David, for doing all the work for this one. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And it's rare, but
do you say the thing now, or do I say the thing?
Oh, I say the thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.